Well, things are opening up a bit, at least here in Texas. Right or wrong, returning to some form of normal is good. For me, I've been able to get into the dentist as of this week, and will get to have my procedure sometime next week. You know, we're over a quarter into the year, 20 weeks in, and from a business perspective, it seems like we're just gearing up, really. I'm Marty with Warehouse and Operations as a career. I'm excited to hear about so many companies calling people back in and to see all the job boards lighting up, all the new ads being placed, and the staffing companies making those calls again. It's kind of like budgets are being reset or rebooted. Plans are being adjusted and goals seem achievable again. And you know what? I feel we, as employees, should probably be doing the same thing. I hope by now you're using a journal daily. Listing our thoughts and experiences will earn us more wages this year. And, that you've already written out your plan and have a couple of things listed, say 4 or 5 goals. Each one a stepping stone to the next, and you're on your path to accomplishing all of them. Seriously, though, we're 5 months into the year, almost halfway through 2020, and I'm feeling good about our opportunities that are ahead. Now, I was fortunate being classified as an essential employee, whatever that means. I was able to work. My job was different, or I felt like it was a little bit different, but we were still training and visiting facilities, helping associates and customers. We here at WAOC understand several industries were not quite as fortunate. Well, fortunate isn't the right word. After all, I think the industries that were able to stall staffing, manufacturing, or production for their employees, protect them, if you will, did a great job handling the crisis, and I hope each of you were helped by your individual states. I know, blah, 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 right? Let's talk a little ops and shop talk. That's more in line with our lives anyway. One thing I found fascinating the last couple of weeks is the interest in training and learning something new. Out in the field, visiting different facilities, I noticed companies are again allowing, that sounded a little harsh, I'll use the word encouraging and trending, more towards cross-training employees. They're letting us get on pallet jacks and forklifts, and supervisors are working with us general labor associates, much more in a coaching capacity. I know I've had many people that's never been interested in other positions reaching out and asking questions about the task that touches theirs. And gosh, over the last 3 weeks, let's see, maybe 8 or 9 people I know have accepted lateral promotions, or have asked to do more if not right out promoted with pay increases to other positions. And you know, the one thing they all had in common was they had gone to their management teams and asked if they could learn something else or do so-and-so. For me, it's really nice seeing that hunger again. Maybe it's because of this perceived reboot or restart that I'm imagining. This Wednesday, one of our trainers had a customer send a general labor associate to him for pit training. He had told his supervisor that he had a little bit of experience on an electric rider jack, so his management team thought it'd be great for him to get certified and be able to use him as needed on, the jack. When he arrived at the training center and saw the classroom and all the equipment lined up, he informed or stated to the instructor that he'd never used or been on an electric pallet jack before. He went through the classroom portion, participated, and asked a lot of questions, especially regarding all the safety aspects of equipment operation, and he really honestly sailed through the testing. During the on-site, he was very comfortable on the equipment and operated it safely. Now, he was very slow and very, very focused. You could tell he didn't have a lot of experience or time operating the equipment, but he'd definitely been on it for a few hours somewhere in his past. His instructor laid out a plan with the associate supervisor to get him some training time out on the front docks, moving pallets around and such, just getting some working time in. I think it's cool that this all came about, not out of a need by his employer, but because he asked to do more. I bet he'll receive a wage increase within the next few months. I can't help but wonder if this action was actually planned, a step to accomplishing a goal. Anyway, I applaud his efforts and I hope he stays on his path. Another gentleman, and I love this success story, although it doesn't end so well. A customer had a new position open up. They decided to hire a person to be their baler. They had a lot of shrink wrap at the end of every shift that had to be gathered up and placed in their recycling baler. In the past, a couple of different people would be trained on its operation and take care of it when they had the time. It'd become a bit overwhelming, hence the new hire. As it turned out, an agency had a gentleman with quite a bit of utility experience in the warehouse. He had some equipment experience, just nothing in any type of productivity setting, but he was comfortable learning anything. The supervisor took him for a tour of the warehouse, worked with him, showed him how to gather up and stage all the used plastic wrap, and taught him how to use the baler machine. The gentleman really did well regarding the safety training and his orientation. A great hire all the way around. And then, after his first week, he no-called, no-showed on his 7th day. The following day, the agency reached out to see, what was wrong, to no avail. The associate didn't return the phone calls. So they started sourcing for a replacement. Now, the gentleman called back the following day and explained his reasoning for being absent and apologized for not calling earlier. And he had a legitimate situation come up, I'd say. I'd classify it as a family situation. In any event, it's our responsibility as an employee to communicate with our employer. His supervisor liked him. Had he communicated his needs to his boss, he would have been willing to adjust his schedule as it turned out, but because he just ghosted everyone, he'd already been replaced. And the new man, he's doing all right, but the supervisor would have liked to have kept the previous gentleman. His hands were tied, though. The employee really had given him no chance to keep him. We've talked so much about the importance of communication. I think this is a great example of how most things can be worked out, but we must talk things through. Oh, and for the agency? The recruiter is having a hard time placing the individual again. The ops guys are a little wary of bringing him on board with a no-call, no-show under his belt. He'll be fine. They'll find him a position, but hey, it's our responsibility to be that responsible employee. Oh, here's another good one. I have an unloading team. They work with a distribution facility. It's a night shift job, but on the inbound side. Anyway, over the last few weeks, they, like most facilities around here, experienced a downturn in their inbound case counts, so their hours and weekly wages had honestly been affected. One of the individuals got pretty upset about his pay. Of course, his supervisor pointed out that with having fewer cases, working less hours, and with the account not shipping as much as they were, it was just slow right now, and it'd pick back up in a few weeks as things opened up again. The employee wasn't having it, though. He turned in his notice stating that he'd be leaving next week. The supervisor didn't really have any recourse, so he accepted it, turned it in to his boss, who then requested his HR department to find him a replacement. Now get this. When the associate heard that they were bringing on another unloader, he got upset all over again. He walked out and quit. I don't know if he thought his boss would somehow come up with more money if he threatened to leave, or if he was just hurt that he'd been replaced. But that's not the way to handle our grievances. Last week, we talked about attitudes and human nature. This is a prime example of what not to do. I understand the gentleman is having a rough time finding a position that can pay him what he was earning. Personally, I'd be hesitant to leave a job until I had another one, especially right now with the number of people seeking employment, until I had another good position lined up. I think this last example could be associated with poor planning, and I'm not sure a goal was even defined. So what's your plan? If you're returning to work now, what are you going to do differently than before you were furloughed? And if you've been working, are you changing anything? Have you adjusted your plans and goals at all? Send us a message to host@warehouse-and-operations-as-a-career.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the 2020 reboot or restart. And don't forget about our Facebook and Twitter feeds. You'll find us on both using that little @ WHSEANDOPS. Well, I hope to be able to visit with you again next week. I'm scheduled to have a little oral surgery, but when I return, we have some great interviews set up with those performing some of our career positions. It'll be fun to hear from those doing the jobs. Until next week, be positive, get motivated. Opportunities abound as we enter the second beginning of the new year. And remember, our first responsibility to ourselves, our teams, our employer, and our families is to be safe in all that we do.